All right, folks, just testing the audio. It turns out that it helps if you hit the unmute button.
Yep.
Sorry for that,
Yep.
Madam Chair. Please go ahead.
To the update from our executive director, so I'll turn it over to Tony McDowell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, citizens and folks joining us online. My name is Tony McDowell. I'm the Executive Director. This is a big day for the Opioid Abatement Authority and for this grants committee. It's really the work that the members of this board have been working on and focusing on since they were appointed. And that is the work of making awards and recommending awards to cities and counties. The staff has worked some long hours to bring to you a set of recommendations that total over $23.6 million for more than half of the localities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So just a little bit of an update on how we got to this point. The members of this board have had, well, in last year, in 2022, they held 12 public meetings, which did not include, so in addition to those 12 public meetings, 7 statewide listening sessions. And then this year, so far, they've held 6 more public meetings. And so there's not very many appointed committees and authorities and bodies in the state of Virginia that have been as active as this board of directors has been. The board onboarded its initial staff members in the August to October timeframe of last year. And those of us that joined the team jumped into the outreach efforts right away. We were able to open up our office in downtown Richmond on November 4th. And from when the office opened in November until January 19th, just a little over 2 months, as a team, we were able to build out the criteria for the grants and launch the grant application on January 19th. We held an in-person workshop for cities and counties about the grants procedures, the guidance, the application process, the purpose of the whole concept on January 19th and 20th. Very well attended, more than 200 people each day for that event. And then with the help of Charlie Linicum, our Director of Operations, we held a series of 3 separate virtual webinars for cities and counties that weren't able to attend the in-person webinar. And the third of those was a question and answer session. And really we're able to make a lot of connections with our city and county leaders from around the Commonwealth during those workshops. The grant cycle for cities and counties closed its initial cycle on May 5th. We received a total of 44 applications, and 40 of those are in front of you today. The grants committee received a summary of all the individual grants on May 17th, and then another set of documents summarizing all the cooperative grants on June 1st. And so, although it's been a quick turnaround, hopefully this provided members of the committee with time and an opportunity to review that material prior to this meeting. Now, I'm not going to list all the organizations that we've stood in front of as part of our outreach effort, but I've provided a sampling on this slide. And you can see that we've presented to dozens and dozens of organizations across the Commonwealth, both organizations that represent municipalities, that represent industry professionals, that represent various state agencies. So what kind of participation did we receive in this first cycle? We had a total of 76 cities and counties that participated in this cycle. Either they submitted individual applications or they participated in a cooperative partnership application. So that represents 57% of Virginia's 133 cities and counties. And of the 57 localities that did not apply, we've spoken with a number of those, and they've indicated that they're aware of the application process. They just weren't ready this time, and they want to be careful with how they apply for and spend the funds. And so we do think that we'll have an increase in the number of applications during the next cycle. And part of the workload for the staff between now and then is to contact those localities and find out what assistance they might need in order to put together applications. And it's worth noting on this slide that we had very heavy participation from Region 1, which is sort of a central slice of the state, and Region 3, which is the far southwest region of Virginia. And the Northern Virginia area had 100% participation. So the areas where we need to focus are Central Virginia and Eastern Virginia. So in order to be able to recommend to you a slate of proposed grants and awards, we have to know that what we're proposing is affordable within the budget. And just as a reminder, there's three basic types of grants. There's the individual grants that go to individual cities and counties. There's the cooperative partnership grants, which are competitive and go to regional groups of cities and counties. And then there's the planning grants. And the way we budget for these, each is a little bit different. And so for the individual city and county grants, these are non-competitive. Each city and each county has a certain number of dollars that they're eligible to receive if they have an applicable grant. These funds are based on a percentage of the revenue that comes to the authority every year. And so that revenue source varies from year to year. And in turn, the amount that's available to the cities and counties varies the same way from year to year. But when we get into the cooperative partnership grants, the Finance Committee made the decision, and this was approved by the full board, to take the full value of the OAA fund as it exists now and based on projected revenues in the future, and smooth this budget out over the life of the fund so that we have a consistent or stable funding source for these competitive regional grants. This smoothing effect allows for the funds to be available consistently over a longer period of time and helps us to provide you with decisions that represent equitable distribution of the funds across the Commonwealth. And then the planning grants are sort of unique because they're not established uniquely in code. They're established by this board. The funding for this comes out of our unrestricted portion of the budget, and it's intended to help localities get up and running during these first couple of years. And then likely you won't see planning grants coming forward after year 2 or year 3. So just a few comments about the process that the staff followed in order to review all of this information and to make recommendations. We don't have a big team. We have 6 employees, including our representative from the Office of the Attorney General. So we divided up the grants from the various regions by staff members. So Charlie handled all the grants from Region 1. I handled Region 2 and Region 4. Cindy Newman, Region 3, which is Southwest Virginia, and Region 5, Adam Rosatelli, that was the eastern portion of Virginia. Our counsel, James Schliessman, provided legal review for all of these. And of course, Kara is kind of like the glue that holds the office together. She kind of kept us on track the whole time. And then the staff had multiple workshops where we all got together physically. Cindy drove up to Richmond and we laid out all the information on the table. And we looked at everything and we compared and we analyzed and we drew all over our marker boards and we worked together to come up with a balanced set of recommendations for the committee. In the course of doing this, we had what I would describe as a really focused effort on customer service, with the applicants, in this case, being the customer. We made verbal and email contact with every single submission, with every single applicant. We worked through questions. There were some things that weren't submitted, exactly correctly. So we worked with the applicants to get those fixed. We did everything we could to help them move the ball forward to bring you a grant that meet the intent that the authority is looking for. And so we really did assist every one of the applicants to the degree possible. In addition to that, obviously, we were reviewing the applications based on our statutory guidance and against the priorities that have been established by this grants committee and by the board, in no small part based on the input that you received in the public listening sessions and the various public meetings that you've held. In addition, we did bring in some subject matter experts as needed on some pieces of the review. An example of that is we reviewed all of the grants with the statewide opioid response team at the Department of Behavioral Health. This is the team that makes decisions regarding $27 million in federal funding that's spent at the local level throughout the Commonwealth. So we wanted to make sure that what we were proposing didn't in any way duplicate or inappropriately overlap with what SOAR was already funding. And so the documents and the recommendations that you see in front of you have been well vetted through that process. It's also worth noting that the competitive grants were a little bit more complicated in terms of the budget and the review process because they're potentially up to 5 years, these grants are. And so we had to balance the upcoming year, but we're also looking at the year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And in some cases, we had applicants that had the right number for this year, but then they want more the next year, and then more the year after that, and more the year 4, or they might have wanted level funding around the whole 5 years. And so one of the things that we know we're going to have to carefully review with each one of our applicants and recipients is that our process isn't going to work that way. All of these grants are going to have to find stable ground with their own sufficient funding at some point in the future. We can't provide continuous funding for all of these programs endlessly. At some point, the support that the OAA has will begin to decline because we have limited resources. And so when Adam gets up in a moment to talk about the budget, you'll see him talking not only about fiscal year 24, but also fiscal year 25, 26, 27, and 28. And then finally, the staff created a standardized summary of each grant, a summary of the grant, and the financial overview that goes with each one of them. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over, Madam Chair, with your indulgence, to the next item on the agenda, which is a budget review, finance review with Adam Rosenthal. We're having some technical issues, so as Adam comes forward, we're trying to get the PowerPoint so that the folks online can see it. Just promoted you to panelist. Okay. I can share my screen. Let me just. I'll be right here.
So if he's gonna share that, so he's gonna share that.
I'm muted.
I think Adam's right.
Is that feedback? Are they hearing this? It's feedback. You just turn off that. Just turn off. This is totally off.
Just do your point.
So who's gonna be able to hear, they're gonna hear online. Yeah.
We just have to advance it with the arrows right there.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So I'm not using the mic, right, to avoid that feedback loop, so I'm just speaking of the.
They can hear.
They can hear it, okay, fantastic. Oh, okay, perfect, okay. All right, we in business? Okay, yeah, oh, I gotcha. All right, looks like we're back. Okay, so to begin by reviewing the individual distribution budget and award recommendations. So as you can see, of the total amount budgeted for FY 23 and FY 24 totaling approximately $25.5 million, about 3.8 million or 15% was requested and has been recommended, leaving 21.6 million or 85% of those individual distribution funds available. So looking at the distribution of those recommended funds among the regions, you can see nearly 40% is going to the southwestern portion of the state. Over 31% is going to the northern region of the state, and just under 14% to the western region, and then 14% again combined between the central and eastern regions. All right, sorry about that. Can you all hear me? That good? Okay. So of these total requests, about 20% were purely for individual projects, while the majority or 80% were individual awards applied as local matching dollars for cooperative projects. So I think really the biggest takeaway from this slide is that the vast majority of individual distribution funds have gone unrequested in this first cycle. And it may be attributed to localities, as Tony kind of alluded to, that may be holding these funds in reserve and attempting to access OA discretionary funding before obtaining their individual dollars, or just simply planning for what they're going to do in the future.
You were on WebEx, I'm not on the screen.
Okay, so now moving on to discuss the process by which the discretionary grant applications were reviewed and considered. So this includes the cooperative project requests as well as the individual and cooperative planning proposals. So for this first application cycle and for consideration for subsequent cycles, OA staff developed a pilot grant application evaluation criteria that uses a weighted system to score applications based on statutorily required priorities and some other measures of application quality. So as you're aware, 2.2-2368 and 2.2-2370 of the Code of Virginia respectively require the OAA to establish specific criteria and procedures for grant awards and to give priority to applications for financial support that meet the following criteria reflected in the bullets on this slide. So in order to quantify these standards so that they may be applied when reviewing applications, staff developed a methodology that produces a numerical value associated with each of these criteria that when added up produces a total application score. So of the total weighted score, 75% represents the prioritization requirements specified in code, and 25% includes additional criteria, including, for example, the quality of the plan as described in the application, and the prospective return on financial investment offered by the cooperative project. So in this slide, this is a specific example of statutory criteria number 2, which is evidence of a program serving communities with a high incidence of opioid use disorder or opioid death rate relative to population. So this evaluation scoring is derived from an adjustment to the per capita measure of harm formula used for local direct distributions. and is calculated as the difference between a locality's percentage of the total direct settlement distribution and its share of the statewide population. So essentially, if a locality's share of the statewide population is greater or lower than its direct settlement distribution, this is indicative of the degree of harm incurred by that locality. Then, using this information, a uniform scoring system was developed that ranks localities based on their relative degree of harm. So to provide an example of how this works, if the city of Virginia Beach, for example, and the city of Chesapeake were to submit a cooperative partnership application, each locality's share of the population would be measured against each locality's share of the total statewide direct distribution. So in this case, for Virginia Beach's share of the direct distribution is 43 basis points less than its share of the statewide population, which individually yields a score of 1. And Chesapeake's direct distribution share is 2 basis points greater than its share of the statewide population, which yields a score of 3. So since Chesapeake scores 3, which indicates a high incidence of opioid use disorder, opioid death rate relative to population, the cooperative partnerships application would be given a score for criteria number 2. So this slide reflects how the application scores generated from the grant application evaluation criteria are ranked according to relative competitiveness among the other applications within the same region. So you can see the score column is ranked in descending order with the highest score on top and the lowest on the bottom. So after review by staff, a recommendation was then entered, which could be approval, denial, or fund from unrestricted funds. And I'll discuss that in a little more detail momentarily. It's also important to point out that no application was denied as a result of its score, but served as a method to meet the statutory requirements or other measures of application quality and consideration of total funding requests compared to the budgeted equitable allocation of regional funds. So now to discuss the regional budget amounts for cooperative projects. Again, those same local allocation percentages were used to calculate the regional share of the total budgeted amount for cooperative projects. This was done by multiplying the MOU direct settlement percentage amounts and the total annual budget for all cooperative projects to produce a regional budget. Essentially, this works to create a budget that equitably allocates funds to a region based on its respective measure of harm. For example, Region 2, which represents the northern region, collectively the MOU percentages for all localities within the region represent about 18% of the total direct distribution, which multiplied by the total FY24 budget produces a regional budget of about $3.4 million. So this summarizes all of the cooperative project budget and recommendations in one table. So moving from left to right, you can see the regional budget and the total amounts requested, less any denials, which then yields the total recommended amounts by region. So total project award recommendations reflect about 93% of the total requested amounts for all the regions collectively. Use of unrestricted funds is recommended when the total awards for a region exceed the regional budget, and this use is limited to one-time capital project expenses. So in total, FY24 cooperative project recommended funding amounts net of unrestricted use results in a balance of $2.7 million. And Tony already alluded to the multi-year budget requests that had been made, right, out 5 years. So looking at that, you can see that these we're calling tentative out-year project requests for the initial application cycle already exceed the regional budget amounts for FY25 through FY28. So if you look at the bottom of this chart, however, you can see that there are still unrestricted funding amounts available to fund these and future project proposals. In addition, moving forward, there's a significant balance in individual distribution funds that may also be applied towards these existing and future projects in terms of local matching dollars or individual projects. So kind of wrapping up the budget portion of this. This is the individual and cooperative planning grant budgets and award recommendations. So in total, a little over $900,000 was requested and recommended for award. So these planning grants really reflect anticipated future requests and funding needs for both individual and cooperative projects in the next 2 application cycles. So as you're aware, the code requires the OAA to balance the immediate and anticipated needs with projected receipts of funds. which is reflected in the measured budget approach adopted by the board, which Tony also spoke about, and really has allowed for localities to plan for both individual and cooperative project fund uses over a multi-year period. And again, to give localities that hadn't yet applied an additional opportunity plan for the use of their individual distribution funds. Subsequent individual planning grant application period has been proposed that would open in July and close in September. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee members may have. Thank you.
Thanks for the great review for us. We are now to the public comment period. Do we have anyone that would like to make public comment at this time?
Here, if you give me just a moment to see what we have online. Computer is locked up.
Did you have anybody sign up to speak? I think we did.
No, ma'am.
We may have someone.
Computer is locked up. Computer's completely frozen. Have to restart.
Has it happened before?
Mhm.
House restart because you're gonna lose everybody.
All right, folks, I apologize, but I'm gonna have to restart the computer.
Lose everybody.
I know.
Yeah. But not-
Oh, I just, can you put in the chat for those who's
All right, Madam Chair, I believe we're back up and running. And it may be appropriate to see if there's anyone online who would like to speak.
Because he's looking.
Can I hear us?
Test. It's computer locked up.
I feel like we're unintended guests at this meeting now.
So it's just not coming back on the screen, or
Did you just?
I think we're good. We're good, guys. Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, we're back online for the time being. I don't see any hands raised or any comments in the chat. So it may be worth asking one more time if there's anyone. Let's not change anything, please. I know. I'm good.
Okay, I just asked here present if they had any comments for public. Comments time, now I'm asking anyone online or calling in if they had any comments they needed to make during this time. So please let us know, unmute or raise your hand using the Zoom functions.
Madam Chair, it would appear that there's nobody online that has any questions or comments.
We will move on to the next one on our agenda.
Oh.
And,
Madam Chair, this is Authority Member Jim Holland. It's my understanding
Dr.
that
Thomason.
the chat function has been disabled. Is that correct? The chat function? Or
Mr. Holland is asking a question.
about the chat function has been disabled. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, if people who are online that are not panelists would like to chat, they're able to type into the chat. They're also able to raise their hand.
Thank you. Thank you. They can raise their hands. Thank you for that.
can you see the Q and A going down to a bar? That's someone's cutting in, put your answer.
This is the text from Mr. Holland saying that he got a text, the chat function disabled, but I don't believe that the chat function is disabled.
You see the Q&A.
Chat is disabled, but Q&A works.
Yes, the Q&A is working. Thank you. Appreciate it, Tony.
Charlie, you're up.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to walk through the grants review and recommendations here. So briefly wanted to kind of give you kind of a quick overview, reminder of what our requirements were for our grants. Most of these that are laid out either in the settlement agreements or in the Code of Virginia that governs the OAA's operation. So no supplanting, no indirect costs. The OAA board did elect to allow for new administrative costs as a definition earlier this year. There has to be a specific use of. Is it not being shared in the? Okay. Right there in the middle, the green one. All right, sorry about that again. So it has to have a specific purpose and there has to be performance measures related to that. They had to provide a timeline, a line item budget. They had to lay out their objectives, had to tell us how the need was determined, who the targeted beneficiaries are, lay out any relationships with partner organizations, note the expected percentage of opioid versus non-opioid participants in the program. The cooperative partnerships also required a cooperative agreement, and those were that they could ask for up to 5 years, but we would make 1-year awards with 4 optional year renewals. And our planning grants must result in a plan, or the funds that would become an application to the OAA, or the funds would have to be repaid. So between January 19th and May 5th, as I stated, we've received 44 applications. We have 40 for consideration today. 4 were not included in this batch, as 2 ended up just being a wonderful detailed communication of how the 2 localities were using their direct distributions. So there was not an ask for OAA funding directly included in those. 1 was withdrawn by the county. The use was not very specific. And after some conversations with them, they elected to withdraw and wait till some more settlement money comes in and apply again in the fall with some more specific usage. And then the other one is the Washington County Mended Women that this committee already approved on April 8th. Excuse me. So 40 applications to act on today. 9 individual distributions to cities and counties, 4 individual city and county planning grants, 21 cooperative applications representing 62 cities and counties. And while there are multiple, some cities and counties that are in multiple applications, that does not duplicate any of those, and 6 cooperative partnership planning applications representing a total of 19 cities and counties. So I'm going to just do a quick, brief run through of each one before we move to our new business actions. So, Abatement County partnering with their CSB to provide outpatient behavioral health services, including case management, care coordination, access to Medicaid-assisted therapy. It'll be available for all of Abatement County residents, including those on Tangier Island, who will be provided air transportation to help them be able to utilize this service. Appomattox County is doing a medication lockbox program that includes purchasing the boxes and educational materials and providing the boxes for free to those who are in need in the community. Arlington County is expanding their office-based opioid treatment, or OBOT, plan to double the number of people served, double the number of people served, and include adding adolescent patients. Galax County has 4 projects that they included. The Too Good for Drugs, which is a youth educational program, doing enhancements to their recovery court, doing naloxone training and distribution through their community service board, and assisting nonprofits in their area with peer recovery programs. Henrico County is doing an expansion of their jail-based Medicaid for opioid use disorder program to increase the number of people served. Hampton City has 2 projects, including a peer recovery drop-in center that's going to be run by their community service board and jail-based MAT program. Next, Louisa County is working with their community service board to have a dedicated clinician for their residents. Louisa has the highest overdose rate in the Region 10 as the community service board in that catchment area there. Roanoke City, where we are today, 5 projects. So adverse childhood experiences training, peer recovery specialist for the sheriff's office and the adult detention center, xylazine test strips and spectrometers for harm reduction, a campaign, marketing campaign for their warm line, and naloxone and training for fire and EMS. And the last of the individual city and county distribution applications, Stafford County, the First Watch Data Analytics Program, which will help them be able to bring data together in a more real time so that they can provide timely response to where opioid issues are happening within their community, and will be able to allow a task force they have to be able to make long-term plans and adjust solutions as needed to meet the needs of the community. On to individual city and county planning applications. Chesterfield County is looking to identify best models for a 24-hour behavioral health facility that they are working on. Norfolk City is doing an implementation planning for a citywide opioid response plan that includes grants management oversight, some initial opioid prevention, intervention, and support programs. Powhatan County, community-wide opioid abatement report and plan. And Powhatan has agreed with us. They have a very well fleshed out RFP to add cooperative procurement language to that, which means that once that award is made, that other localities would be able to go and pull from a list of approved contracts instead of, which will save them some time and resources instead of having to go through the full RFP process if they would like to. And Suffolk City is doing a needs assessment and grant management plan. So now we're into the big run. 21 cooperative partnership applications. Start off, and these are set up by region. So we'll start off with Region 1. That's more of some of the central portions of Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley. Albemarle County submitted 2 applications, one for a CITAC, which is a Crisis Intervention Team Assessment Center that they currently have, and they want to expand services there. They also want to add a crisis response, which is a 23-hour bed program. 6 participating cities and counties in that one, no match provided. Albemarle County's second proposal is expansion of their community response program that is part of the Blue Ridge Center. Thank you. And they are going to be adding a community drop-in component. Same 6 localities, no match provided. Buena Vista City, Hope House Recovery Home. 3 participating cities and counties. This is the first recovery home in their community. And I do want to note this one that not only did they have a match from their localities, but they had match from within the community. And when you take their letters of financial support, their letters of in-kind support for renovating the facility, and you take their general letters of support, including all 3 law enforcement, they had 33 letters of support for this. So this is a real large community supported project. So moving on, Culpeper County is creating an overdose response unit with certified peer recovery specialists. 5 participating cities and counties, no match provided. Lynchburg City is the Horizon Community Service Board in that area is working on a crisis receiving detox center. This amount of money is for the capital for the first year to stand it up. They have some small operational requests in their out years. One note for this one is this is not the full cost of the facility. They anticipate up to 70% of their attendees will be have opioid use disorder. So they only ask for 70% of the cost. They're using grant funds as a match to cover the other 30%. And this is one of our ones that, because it was a large ask and it was one-time capital cost, we recommended from unrestricted funds. Region 1 continued. We had 2 from Rockingham County. They have a crisis response unit. That's going to have an expansion to have training for first responders, treatment recovery supports, add comprehensive wraparound services, support for their mobile services, and harm reduction. And the second Rockingham County, that's 2 participating cities and counties, and they brought in a match from the localities. And the second, Rockingham County, is another CITAC Crisis Intervention Team Assessment Center. Same two participating cities and counties. They did bring in a match. This will allow them to, their current CITAC runs in the evenings, Monday through Friday. It's closed on the weekends and closed during the day. The money from the OAA will allow them to open 24 hours on the weekend, and they're working on securing a federal grant to be 24 hours during the week. And Stafford County. So this is a kind of two-pronged project that is interrelated. They want to implement mobile MAT, and they want to expand detox for women at the Sunshine Lady House that they have in their area. And that is 5 participating localities, and they did each bring a match in from their individual distribution. So Region 2, this is the Northern Virginia area, Fairfax County, a new residential treatment program for adolescents. It's a large ask as they are building this kind of from the ground up. So there's a lot of upfront startup costs. But 5 participating cities and counties, and so a good size match brought in with them. Prince William County had 2. One is for an office-based opioid treatment or OBOT expansion. That is 3 participating cities, counties, but no match provided. Prince William's second application was for a job pipeline development for peer recovery specialists. That was 3 participating cities and counties. There was a very small match brought in by 1 locality. This one has been recommended for denial as stated in the summary. That you all have in front of you. So Region 3. Now we're moving into Cindy's area down in Southwest Virginia. Grayson County wants to enhance their recovery court. And that's 3 participating cities and counties, and they brought in their match from their direct distributions. Montgomery County has a large process they're calling the New River Valley ecosystem. They're trying to be able to catch people at every entry in the recovery system. So they are expanding inpatient treatment and MAT, enhancing transportation, adding recovery court clinicians, expanding recovery court fitness program, expanding law enforcement critical engagement, integrating education, treatment, and harm reduction into the mobile unit, providing trauma-informed care, adverse childhood experiences, and other prevention and education outreach, assessing supportive housing and adolescent inpatient treatment models to support families. There's a lot of A's in that. Apology. And then Smith County is a program to expand both OBOT and MAT and developing regional transitional recovery housing. And further continued with Region 3. We have Roanoke City. That's a typo on the slide. Apologies. But Roanoke City and Roanoke County are partnering together. They are. This is to support and expand their already established Roanoke Valley Collective Response that is overseeing their recovery ecosystem. Washington County. So this is the same facility, the Mended Women Treatment Facility that the committee approved for an individual award back in April. This cooperative award with 2 localities is to purchase the facility that will reduce their overall operating costs, allow them to provide more support to their individuals served. And the nonprofit submitted a 51% match in the form of a loan on this application. And then closing out Region 3 is Wise County. We are developing an intensive outpatient treatment facility for youth that will run during the day and include food and educational supports for them while they are in recovery. Region 4, this is kind of the more traditional Central Virginia, Richmond area and south. Chesterfield County, mobile outreach services for harm reduction, treatment and support for participating cities and counties, and they did bring in some match from each participating locality. Hanover County is expanding Project Recover, which embeds certified peers with first responders, connecting people to overdose resources. It's a partnership between the U.S. Attorney's Office and Imagine the Freedom Foundation that already exists with several localities. This expansion would add Hanover County to the program that already exists with Chesterfield, Richmond, and Henrico, and will also add capacity in Chesterfield and Henrico. Henrico County has one for a pregnant and parenting women recovery program, 3 participating cities and counties, no match provided on that one. And Region 5, Chesapeake City, constructing a 20-bed inpatient psychiatric unit, 2 participating cities, and there is a $3.1 million match on the $3 million ask that's coming from a number of other sources that they're trying to finalize the details on, but not at this time. They've not asking for any OAA funds as a match on that. So through all the cooperative planning applications, I almost forgot. So we're in the home stretch here. Region 1, Rockingham County wants to do a cross-system sequential intercept mapping. It is something they have done before that looks at the, where's my note? It brings together stakeholders to identify resources and gaps and services at each intercept, which is every point in the criminal justice system, and develop action plans to divert the target population. They've done this in the past, but it's been quite some time, but they found success in their program. So this will help them figure out where their next steps are. Wayne, and that's 2 participating cities and counties, no match on that one. Waynesboro City, partnering with 2 other localities around them, is to conduct a needs assessment and to do some community visioning sessions. And they are bringing in a match from their direct distributions. Region 4, Henrico County, and sorry for jumping around regions, but this is what fit best on the slides. They're identifying needs, gaps, and resources to support pregnant and nursing mothers program for a different set of localities than the program they've asked for under the cooperative application. And then Region 3, Brunswick County, doing a needs assessment and plan for abatement with 3 localities, and they brought in a 51% match from their direct distributions. Martinsville City, also doing a needs assessment and plan, and 2 cities and counties, and they brought in a 50% match from direct distributions. And then Region 5, Virginia Beach City, is doing it's what they're calling the Southampton Roads Continuum of Care Planning, to figure out where their best projects will come from, and 5 participating cities and 50% match. So last item on my slide deck here is future state for planning grants. We do know there are some localities that are still looking for this, and so we wanted to put something for the grants committee to consider, that we would propose to reopen the planning grants July 1st and close them out on September 30th. And I think at this point we would make this kind of the last opportunity for planning grants. We'll run a separate cycle to try to get the awards out to them sooner than waiting for the next cycle, which means that if we followed the next cycle, they wouldn't be able to get the awards till July 1 of 2024. So we're trying to get the money out to those that are ready to go with this sooner. Performance period would be January through December, kind of for a one-time for them, be different than our other performance periods. Awards would be considered at the December grants committee meeting, We would only make these available for individual and cities and counties who've not yet applied. And the reason that we are recommending only doing it for individual cities and counties is, as you see with the current slate of application we've already received, where in our out years, we're over budget for regional projects. So not that others may not come in and be considered, but when we give out a planning grant, we're expecting an application. So we wanted to use this to kind of give some more support to incentivize some more individual applications on the next round. And we would move these to have a 12-month performance period. Our current planning grants have 24 months, which was to give flexibility, but is probably really longer than is needed with most of these that are bringing in consultants or just doing community sessions. So that would shorten that. And there is sufficient money already approved in the budget from the current round of planning grants to support this. So, any questions for me? Yeah, let's see if there's any questions from.
Are there any questions online?
Madam Chair, if anybody online has questions, they should try to type them into the Q&A feature. Right now, I don't see any. Madam Chair, I would say we have no questions or comments online.
All right, thank you very much for your report. We will move on to our new business. And the first item of new business is what Charlie just discussed about the board was to establish an application period for individual and city county planning grants from July 1st through September 30th, 2023. So do I hear a motion to accept this proposal and move forward? We're talking about the new application.
Oh, new.
So this is just about what's up there for what Charlie just. Time for them to do some more planning grants.
Madam Chair, this is Jim Holland. I move approval of the information disseminated.
Jim
for
Holland
planning
has
grant.
moved approval. Jim Holland has made a motion to
Approved,
adopt.
yes.
Are there any discussion by any of our committee members about this motion? Online discussion?
Can we wait 1 second, ma'am? There is one hand up.
Cindy, what can you see?
It's a Zoom issue.
Now you're sharing. it.
What are you trying to do?
Cindy, turn your screen to me.
Just stop.
It's the screens, click on it. Click in here.
Respectfully, if you don't know Zoom, let's just. I got it. All right, Dr. Thompson has a question. Dr. Thompson?
Oh, thanks, Tony. I apologize. It doesn't seem that I can get the Q&A to work, but thanks for calling on me. I could not hear, or I couldn't hear clearly what was being proposed.
Yes, sir. So what's being proposed is that the staff would like to announce one more planning grant period for cities and counties. And so what would happen is that on July 1st, we would open up another planning grant process.
Got it. Yeah.
And that would run until the end of September for cities and counties to
Understood.
submit for planning grants.
Yeah, I understood. Yeah. I guess I just couldn't hear that was what it was that was being proposed to announce that. Okay. I'm sorry for the delay over something so simple.
Nope, that's on us for the technology issues we're struggling with.
Okay, I'll lower
So
my
the-
hand.
There's been a motion made and seconded the chair had asked if there were any comments. I think we've had one comment. And so, Madam Chair, the motion may be ripe for a vote.
Okay. September 30, 2023. At this point, we'll vote. All of those in favor of the motion, please vote by saying aye. And aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Madam Chair, I think it might help if you bring your microphone.
Sure. Senator Billion. See that his thing's muted. And he has still pictures. Oh, he's never mind. Thank you, Senator. It sounds like it's the vote. Yes.
Moving to discuss item B, which is the motion to recommend to the full board that the OAA approve the block of individual grants to cities and counties. In this, they have recommended funding as described in the summary sheets that we received and that were posted on the website for Appomattox, Arlington, Galax, Hampton, Henrico, Louisa, and Stafford. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to fund these 8 individual grant applications consistent with our staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion in support of this? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Are there any discussion by committee members here in person or online? Not seeing that anyone has wanted to speak online. Have you, Tony?
No, ma'am.
Okay, at this point, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? It appears to be a unanimous vote again. Thank you. All right, new business item C. Grants Committee will now take up for consideration the individual planning grant applications for the following 3 cities and counties in one block, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheets we've received for Norfolk, Powhatan, and Suffolk. So I'll entertain a motion to fund the 3 individual planning grant applications just announced, consistent with our staff recommendations. Do I
Madam
have-
Chair. Madam Chair, Jim Holland, I move approval.
Second.
So we had a motion from Jim Holland for approval as well.
2 seconds then. All right, any discussion about this motion by any of our members? Okay, not seeing any, I will go ahead and move for a vote. All in favor of our motion, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, looks to be unanimous decision as well. All right, next item is to take up for consideration the cooperative grant applications for the following 17 cities and counties acting as fiscal agents in one block, whereby our staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheets we've received. Albemarle, including Nelson, Louisa, Green, Charlottesville, and Fluvanna. Albemarle, including Nelson, Louisa, Green, Charlottesville, and Fluvanna. Buena Vista, Chesapeake, including Virginia Beach, Culpeper, Fairfax County, Grayson, Henrico County, Lynchburg, Montgomery, Prince William, Rockingham, including Harrisonburg for the Crisis Response Unit, Rockingham again for the CITAC, Smith, Stafford County, Washington County, and Wise County. I will entertain a motion to fund the 17 cooperative grant applications just announced, consistent with our staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Madam Chair, Jim Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Any discussion about this motion? Okay, not hearing or seeing any, we will proceed to the vote. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay. We have unanimously approved that motion. All right, we will move on to take up for consideration the cooperative planning grant applications for the following 4 cities and counties acting as fiscal agents in one block. Staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheets we've received. That would be Brunswick, Rockingham, Virginia Beach, Waynesboro. I will entertain a motion to fund these 4 cooperative planning grants application as just announced, consistent with our staff recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Madam Chair, Jim Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Do I have a second? Thank you, guys. Okay, any discussion? Okay, not hearing any, we move to vote. All in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, we have a unanimous decision. All All right, next item is a portion of the agenda where the committee will move from block votes to singular award votes. This becomes necessary whenever a single proposed grant has been removed from the block for any particular reason. Examples could be that the committee may be considering a denial or a change from what the staff proposed, as well as when a committee member asks to be recused from voting on a specific locality's application. With that as a background, the Grants Committee will now take up for consideration the cooperative grant application for the following county, acting as a fiscal agent whereby the staff has recommended denial as described in the summary sheets received. And this is for Prince William County, including Manassas and Manassas Park, the CPRS job pipeline development. As staff is recommending denial of this application, is there any motion by the committee with respect to this application?
Madam Chair, just as a point of order, the committee has an option, which is if there is no motion at all, then the item essentially is laid on the table and won't move forward. Alternatively, if members of the committee would like to fund this proposal, then you would need to make a motion that would indicate that preference.
Question? Is there?
No. Madam Chair, no motion here. Jim Holland.
Taking no action, that automatically occur.
The question from Mr. Spencer was whether we can defer this until the next application period. By taking no action, the grant would not move forward in this time period. The applicant can bring it back. They can modify it. They can bring it back again during the next cycle if they choose to do so.
So no action gives them that option.
No action gives them the option to come back again during the next cycle. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Holland also had a question. Mr. Holland, could you repeat your question?
No question. My comment was take no action on it and let it, as you stated, lay until they decide to come back.
So I'm not sure if folks in the room could hear, but Mr. Holland is suggesting that no action be taken.
So hearing no motion, my assumption is that we will not take any action at this time, so the grant will not move forward.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. The Grants Committee will now take up the following two applications separately, whereby committee member Timothy Spencer has declared a possible conflict, so Mr. Spencer will not participate in the deliberation or voting with respect to the two applications, and Mrs. Buckman will not participate in the second one. So the first one, the Grants Committee will now consider the individual application for the city of Roanoke, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheet we've received. I will entertain a motion to fund the individual application for the city of Roanoke as just announced, consistent with staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair. Jim Holland.
Please.
Grant application filed as owner because of serving the attorney and employed by the city of Roanoke. As this statement to benefit this city, and I will repeat myself in accordance with Virginia Code section 2.2-3112.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. We will have that included in our minutes. So do I hear a motion regarding the individual application for the city of Roanoke?
So moved, Madam Chair. Jim Holland.
Mr. Holland, thank you for making that motion. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, move forward with the vote. All of those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those in opposition, please say nay. Okay, we'll note that Mr. Spencer has recused himself and the vote is unanimous.
Yes, Judy.
All right, the Grants Committee will now consider the cooperative application
Just
for
a
the
moment.
city of
Here's right
Roanoke,
here.
acting as a fiscal agent, includes Roanoke County, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheet we received. I will entertain a motion to fund the cooperative. Go ahead.
My apology. I'm terrible. For cooperative application, city of Roanoke, seems fiscal agent, please Roanoke. Ms. Buckman provided your council with also a statement of interest similar to the one that Mr. Spencer provided. Maybe her conflict. I have that sheet with, and I'll be giving it to Ms. Moisen to be part of the minutes as well.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Speaking as my employer has previously received funding from one of the organizations that.
Great.
And I as well would like to again say that Timothy Spencer state that I have personal interest in agenda item 7 regarding the grants application submitted by the city of Roanoke, because I am employed by the city of Roanoke. Therefore, I will not be participating in this matter in accordance with Virginia Code section 2.2-1112. That's being included in the minutes as part of the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, thanks to both of you for recognizing that those conflicts of interest, and those statements will be entered into the minutes. And so with them recused, we'll move forward to see if we have a motion for considering the cooperative application for the city of Roanoke, acting as fiscal agent, including Roanoke County.
Jim Holland, I move approval. For those.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Great, we'll move forward with the vote. For those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, please say nay. Okay, I don't see anyone. That has passed unanimously as well.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. At this time, I believe that Mr. Spencer will be part of the discussion and deliberation for the following one. However, the grants committee will now take up for consideration the cooperative planning grants application for Martinsville, City of Martinsville, including Henry County. This time, Ms. Buckman continues. Her has declared her possible conflict and has filled out a conflict of interest form, which I've handed to Ms. Moisen. But we ask at this time, with her recusal, the board take up to entertain the motion funding the cooperative planning grant for the city of Martinsville. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do I hear a motion for to fund Martinsville? Okay, how about we have you as the motion? Again, thank you so much. Okay, all in favor? Well, I guess we should have discussion. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any indication. All those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Seems like that was approved unanimously as well.
She can resume her participation board for the last series of.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, the grants committee will now take up the following 4 applications separately, where by committee member James Holland has declared a conflict. He will not participate in the deliberation or voting with respect to the 4 applications forthcoming, and we do have his statement of conflict of interest here that will be entered into the minutes. So, Mr. Holland, you can leave virtually, or you may just stay with us but not participate, whatever your pleasure is.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
So the first one, we will now consider the individual planning application for Chesterfield County, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheet we received. I'll entertain a motion now to fund the individual application for Chesterfield County as just announced, consistent with staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Very much. Are there any discussion? Okay. We will proceed to the vote. All in favor of this motion, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay, we have approved that motion unanimously. Grants Committee will now consider the two cooperative applications, one for Chesterfield County acting as fiscal agent, including Powhatan, Colonial Heights, and Petersburg, and two for Hanover County acting as fiscal agent, including Chesterfield and Richmond City, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheets we received. I will now entertain a motion to fund the two cooperative applications as just announced, consistent with staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
So.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion by committee members? Okay. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed by saying nay. Okay. Passes unanimously. The Grants Committee will now consider the cooperative planning grant application for Henrico County acting as fiscal agent, includes Richmond City, Hanover, and Chesterfield, whereby staff is recommending funding as described in the summary sheets we've received. I will now entertain a motion to fund the cooperative planning grant application as just announced, consistent with our staff recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Any discussion by our committee members? Okay, all of those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay. We have completed that motion by the vote unanimously. Great. At this point, we are up to number 8 in our agenda. Time for any discussion among ourselves. Would any of you guys like to online or here in person?
Thing I'd like to note, Chair, is I appreciate the hard work, dedication been done by staff, including the summaries and the presentation tonight. That just made this process so much easier. Know that you think that we're acting quickly, but if you were here on the line and saw the presentation by staff, we would understand that we've had these materials for a period of time. And with that, their hard work and your recommendations made the process much easier. Thank you.
Anyone else with comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Jim Holland. I also want to compliment staff. What a tremendous job. I reviewed all the grant applications. They were well done. And I appreciate the hard work that's gone into this. This has been quite a process. And I want to compliment the executive director and his entire team for doing an outstanding job in this regard. And I want to thank Adam for that financial presentation. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Thank you all.
I will also echo the comments from my fellow board members. This has been an extremely transparent effort. We have been, all of the board members have been reached out to consistently throughout the process. We reached out for expert advice from board members throughout as well. And I don't think that the process could have gone any smoother. So kudos to Tony, your staff, and just thank you for all the work you've done thus far. We still have a lot to do, and I'm really looking forward to the difference we're going to make and how many lives we're going to save. I think you guys will all agree with me on that. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, if I may, it's Tony McDowell. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the members of the committee and board members for their kind words. This team that works for you in Richmond has put yeoman's work into this process. You know, we kind of expected that applications would come in along a sort of a time frame stretching from January to May, but the truth is almost all of them came in the last week that they were due, which meant that the team had about a month total to do all of this review and to create these summaries, to balance everything, to make sure that it works with the budget and to prepare for tonight. I think it's a task I can speak for the team to say that we take very seriously. And it's an important, meaningful task. It's life-saving work. And these folks that are sitting around the room that have been working on this long hours definitely are the ones that deserve the kudos. Along the same veins, I want to apologize, Madam Chair, and to all the committee members for the technical challenges we had tonight. I wish I could blame the computer, but I'm pretty sure it's not the computer's fault. We did do a test run of all this in the office, and I think when you get out of your own environment and you're in somebody else's building and you can't figure out how to make everything interact, we're going to make sure that in the future that we're self-sufficient on these things and that the presentations run smoothly. So that's on me, and my apologies for the folks online as well that probably struggled to keep up with some of the material that we really were trying to share with you. We'll be sharing the full PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording of this meeting for what it's worth on the website and through Commonwealth Calendar. And then one last comment, if I may, Madam Chair, is just a reminder that in terms of the process of how these grants move forward, these grants are not yet fully approved. Only the full board can make final approval. And we really want to make sure that the general public has the opportunity to provide the full board with input, comments, and review before that final vote is taken. That meeting is scheduled for the full board on June 23rd, as you all know. It's going to be an all virtual meeting. We'll have the technology lined up and ready to roll, I promise. And that meeting is going to be open to the public. So this is the opportunity for the general public to participate and to make comments. They can share comments before the meeting in the form of letters, emails, that sort of thing, or they can just simply show up and speak during public comments. The board will vote on this committee's recommendations at the June 23rd meeting. They will not have the opportunity to break things out. Well, we don't have the obligation of breaking things out the way we did tonight, unless a member of the board would like to recuse themselves from a particular vote. So more information will be forthcoming on that as we prepare over the next couple of weeks for that presentation. And Madam Chair, unless anybody has any comments, that's what I have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you for that bit of information and discussion. I will look forward to seeing all of you on June 23rd. It's going to be a big day. At this point, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
And second, Jim Hall.
All in favor, please say aye. Safe travels home.